Lisbon, Portugal. Atlantic tech hub with old world charm. Lisbon has quietly become a darling of the modern expat and remote work scene. In recent surveys, it regularly ranks among the top digital nomad and remote work destinations worldwide, thanks to its sunny climate, fast internet, and vibrant startup culture. Once you arrive, you'll find a city of striking contrasts. Historic neighborhoods, brimming with tile-roofed mansions and fado music on one hand, and a growing tech creative sector on the other. That mix, plus relatively low crime and an affordable cost of living, is why many retirees, families, and remote professionals are seriously considering Lisbon. This guide digs into the data: safety by neighborhood, rent and budget figures, visa and tax rules, D7 versus D8, NHR changes, healthcare access, infrastructure, and schools. In each area, we highlight the realities, good and bad, so you can judge how Lisbon compares to other popular expat cities like Valencia or Berlin before you pack your bags. Safety by neighborhood. Portugal is one of the world's safest countries, consistently ranking in the global top 10 for peace and low violence. Lisbon, its capital, inherits that overall safety. International indexes place Lisbon solidly in the upper tier of global city safety, even rating it among the world's top 10 safest cities to visit in 2026. Violent crime is very rare. The biggest risks here are classic big city issues like pickpockets and opportunistic theft. Recent police data show crime in the Lisbon district actually fell in 2024, underscoring its generally secure reputation. That said, safety varies by neighborhood and time of day. In tourist hotspots like Baixa, Rocio, and Chiado, especially around major squares and funicular lines, pickpocketing is common when crowds gather. Fado pitch roads and Alfama feel safe by day, but some narrow alleys get quiet at night. Likewise, nightlife circuits, Bairro Alto and Castro Sodré, can attract grab-and-dash incidents when bars close and people stumble home. Public transport hubs and busy tram queues are also favorite targets for criminals. As one travel guide notes, late nights in some areas, crowds, open drinks, and easy targets require vigilance. For families and security-conscious expats, the solution is to live in the quieter, wealthier precincts. Neighborhoods on Lisbon's western coastal and suburban fringes, such as Cascais, Oeiras, or the northern districts of Campo do Ourique, Alvalade, and Tilheiras, consistently report lower petty crime rates. These areas have stable residential populations, walkable streets, and a strong police presence. In short, Lisbon is broadly safe, but prudent visitors and new residents choose their streets wisely. Day-to-day life in the city's core is largely trouble-free, but it pays to stay alert around packed tourist plazas or dimly lit bars at night. Housing and rent trends. Lisbon's booming popularity has strained its housing supply. The vacancy rate for long-term rentals is just around 3%, well below the historical 4 to 5% norm. As a result, rents climbed dramatically in recent years, though late 2025 data show a market cooling off. According to one analysis, average asking rents in Lisbon are about €23 per m squared, but signed contracts typically average closer to €16.50 per m squared after negotiation. Rents peaked in fall 2025, around €17 per m squared, then actually fell by about 5% over the following quarter. Still, Lisbon remains expensive by Portuguese standards. In Metro Lisbon, the median rent was 36% above the national average. As of 2026, here's what tenants are actually paying. A studio apartment runs roughly €900 per month on average, often €750 to €1,200 depending on location. A one-bedroom flat is about €1,250 on average, though most leases fall in the €1,000 to €1,700 range. The cheapest one-bedrooms are typically found in outer districts like Benfica, Olivais, or Lumiar, while the most expensive are in central parishes, Santo Antonio, Misericordia, Santa Maria Maior. Two-bedroom apartments average about €1,850, roughly €1,400 to €2,600 range. Again, the city center, Príncipe Real, Avenida de Liberdade area, Parque das Nações, commands the highest rents, whereas peripheral zones, Benfica, Lumiar, Olivais, are more affordable. Overall, rent growth has slowed to roughly 1 to 2% annually in 2026, down from explosive increases after 2020. But steep micro-market gaps remain. In premium downtown areas like Chiado or Baixa, modern apartments with parking still rent for €25 to €30 per meter, whereas newer districts like Parque das Nações offer €18 to €22 per meter for similar units. Investors note yields of 3 to 4% in prime Lisbon rental districts despite price peaks. In practice, this means Lisboners often accept a trade-off. You either pay a hefty premium to live in the historic core, with tourist buzz, or move to quieter suburbs for better value. Benchmark. For context, Lisbon's rent levels around 21 to 23 euros per meter are higher than Valencia's Spain coastal market, but somewhat comparable to Berlin's. In fact, by late 2025, Lisbon ranked as Europe's 8th most expensive rental market. Berlin's average ask was roughly 20 to 22 euros per meter around the same time, but earning power in Germany tends to be higher. Valencia, by contrast, is cheaper in housing. An 80 square meter flat in Valencia often rents well under 1,000 euros, whereas similar space in Lisbon easily tops 1,400 euros. Valencia also has less hilly terrain and more new construction. Cost of living and budgets. On day-to-day expenses, Lisbon remains relatively affordable. Expat guides estimate a single person's basic expenses, excluding rent, at around 700 to 750 euros per month. That covers groceries, utilities, transport, a few coffees and meals out, etc. For example, a mid-range grocery bill and household basics might run 280 euros, utilities plus internet 160 euros, and public transport monthly pass about 40 euros. Dining out modestly adds 150 euros to 200 euros. A basic private health policy can be surprisingly cheap, about 30 euros per month for minimal coverage. In sum, non-housing living costs for one person typically hover in the 700 euros to 800 euros range per month. Once rent is added, budgets rise. In a mid-central neighborhood, say Avenidas Novas, the one-bedroom rent of around 1,250 euros plus the above expenses yields roughly 2,000 to 2,100 euros per month. Anchorlist 2026 similarly finds typical expat budgets of 1,700 to 2,400 euros, 1,580 euros to 2,200 euros, 2,230 for a comfortably furnished flat, plus living expenses. If you live outside the core, that total can drop. A one-bedroom in an outlying district, 1,000 euros, might bring a single-person budget closer to 1,760 euros. For a family of 4, costs scale up. Excluding rent, estimates run about 2,600 to 2,700 per month for food, utilities, transport, schooling, etc. Adding rent for a modest 3-bedroom pushes a couple family budget to roughly 4,300 euros outside center, or 5,200 euros or more in the city center. Private school fees are an additional major expense if chosen. International schools often cost 8,000 to 20,000 euros per child per year. Public Portuguese schools are free. Reality check. These budgets fit the Portuguese reality of moderate incomes. The average Portuguese household disposable income is around 19,500 euros per person per year. Lisbon's minimum wage is 920 euros per month. Gross, 2026. Even with moderate cost, new arrivals from higher-cost countries should plan accordingly. Many expats find that a total of 2,500 euros to 3,000 euros per month for two people, mid-range lifestyle, is realistic to live comfortably in Lisbon. Visas, taxes, and the end of NHR. Portugal offers attractive residency routes for non-EU nationals. The D7 visa, passive income visa, requires proving a stable income from outside Portugal. Typically pensions, rents, dividends are similar. The threshold is quite reasonable. About 920 euros per month, the Portuguese minimum wage for a single applicant. That rises to about 1,380 for a couple and about 1,656 euros for a couple with one child. In practice, you must show roughly a year's worth of income or savings, 11,040 euros for a single person, on hand at a Portuguese consulate. Very importantly, the D7 does not allow working for a Portuguese employer. It is strictly for living off passive revenues. In October 2022, Portugal introduced the D8 digital-nomad visa for remote workers. It targets freelancers and online professionals with foreign clients. This visa's income requirement is steeper. About 3,680 euros per month, about 4 times the minimum wage. Applicants must prove that at least this much earned income over the past 3 to 6 months, plus hold 11,040 euros in savings, with higher buffers if bringing family. The D8 visa is renewable and leads to the same residency permits via IMA as other visas. It does allow working remotely, but not actively seeking local employment. Once you become a resident, you gain Schengen mobility and access to public services. Both visas eventually lead toward permanent residency, citizenship, if you meet the stay requirements. Whichever route you take, be aware of recent tax law changes. Historically, many foreign retirees and professionals came to Portugal under the non-habitual resident (NHR) tax scheme. which gave huge 10-year tax breaks on foreign income. However, that regime ended on January 1, 2024, for new applicants. Now the government offers a new technology R&D tax incentive, known as iFICI, covering certain Portuguese-sourced tech income, but this is very different and much narrower than NHR. In short, if you did not get NHR before 2024, you won't get it now. Expect to pay ordinary Portuguese tax rates on your income, though Portugal's ordinary rates are moderate compared to some countries. Long-term residents can still use the older NHR benefits if they signed up before the cutoff. Healthcare, SNS versus private insurance. Portugal boasts a universal public health system, SNS, funded by taxes and social security. All legal residents, including expats with residency or work permits, can register and get care under SNS. You sign up with a local medico de familia, family doctor, who provides primary care and refers you for specialist treatment. Portugal's health outcomes are excellent. Life expectancy exceeds 82 years, and infant mortality is very low. Indeed, Portugal's health system consistently ranks in the global top 25 for quality of care. In practice, however, SNS resources are lean. By international standards, Portugal spends relatively little per capita on health. So, some trade-offs exist. The public system delivers generally solid care, but you may experience long waits for non-urgent procedures or specialists. Consequently, many expats add private health insurance for faster access. Basic private plans are inexpensive, often a few tens of euros per month, and grant appointments at private clinics and hospitals, often with English-speaking doctors. In short, newcomers often use both systems. The SNS covers your routine checkups, emergency care, and any necessary referrals, while private insurance tops up to avoid queues, especially for diagnostic tests or non-emergency treatments. The bottom line, Portugal's healthcare is reliable and affordable, but not identical to the super-quick standard of some wealthier countries. Expats typically say medical care is high quality, yet advise patience with public waiting times, and recommend supplemental insurance or cash payments if speed is important. It's wise to sign up for the SNS promptly after arrival, especially if working or paying into SS, and research some private insurance options. Plan costs are often around €30 to €50 per month for good coverage. Vaccinations, prescriptions, and emergency services are all available through SNS. Routine dental and optics are usually paid out of pocket or via private coverage. Immigration bureaucracy. After you land on a visa, the next step is getting the actual residence permit, Cartão de Residência, through Portugal's immigration agency, IMA, which replaced the old SEF service in 2023. Processing times have stabilized, but applications still require planning. Recent guides note that general work-related permits typically take 3 to 6+ months post-biometrics. In other words, expect about half a year between arriving and seeing a card, though it can vary. Golden visa cases, if you have one, can be much slower, over a year. It's vital to book your biometric appointment quickly through the online portal, and not wait until the last minute. Once IMA approves your permit, getting the physical card can add a few more weeks. Key tip: start renewals well in advance. Since late 2025, broad permit extensions ended, so you can't just rely on auto-renewals anymore. Begin renewal processes 4 to 6 months early, monitor appointments, and respond quickly to any requests. Some expats find it faster to schedule biometrics at regional offices rather than Lisbon. While bureaucracy in Portugal can be heavy, it's not insurmountable if you stay organized. In the worst case, IMA now issues a temporary proof of approval document, so you're not left without status if the card is delayed. Infrastructure, connectivity, and climate. Lisbon's modern amenities surprise many newcomers. Internet. Portugal has world-class broadband penetration, and Lisbon is no exception. Typical home fiber packages easily deliver hundreds of megabits per second. In fact, user surveys rate Lisbon's internet excellent, average download speeds around 160 megabits. This means video calls, telework, and streaming are hassle-free in most apartments, assuming you have fiber or cable. Public Wi-Fi is also common in cafes and co-working spaces. Transportation. Lisbon has a well-developed transit network. The metro alone runs 4 lines: blue, yellow, green, red, linking the center to suburbs and to the airport. Red line goes to Oriente Station by the airport. Overhead trams, the famous historic 28 and others, plus funiculars service the steep streets, though these are often very busy or slow. There is also an extensive bus and trolley system. Suburban and commuter trains connect Cascais, west, and Sintra, northwest to central Lisbon. In practice, many Lisbon residents rely on a mix of metro train and walking. Hard traffic can be heavy in rush hours, and parking is scarce downtown. Airport. Lisbon's Humberto Delgado Airport, LIS, is about 7 miles, 15 kilometers from the city center. It's a major European hub served by dozens of airlines. In 2023, it handled about 30 million passengers, flying non-stop to Europe, North America, South America, Africa, and the Middle East. The new metro line and highway make it easy to reach. Plus key train stations, Santa Apollonia on the Green Line and Gare do Oriente on the Red Line, connect with high-speed rail and international trains. This strong air-rail connectivity enhances Lisbon's appeal to expats who travel often. Climate. Lisbon has a classic Mediterranean climate. Winters are mild and short. Summer heat is hot, but usually tempered by Atlantic breezes. Average high temperatures are about 16 degrees Celsius in winter and 28 to 29 degrees Celsius in July-August. Snow and frost are virtually non-existent. Rain falls mostly in autumn-winter. December can get over 100 millimeters, while summers are bone dry, often 0 to 5 millimeters in July-August. Sunshine is abundant. Lisbon averages roughly 300 sunny days a year. Air quality is generally good by European standards. Portugal cities rank high for clean air, though summer ozone or dust events can happen occasionally. Overall, the climate is widely praised. Many expats say Lisbon's weather, warm sunny winters, not too oppressive summers, is a key quality of life advantage. Language, education, and integration. Portuguese is the official language, and understanding it is important for truly integrating. On the positive side, Portugal as a whole is one of the top non-native English-speaking countries in Europe. Surveys rank it in the global top 10 for English proficiency. In Lisbon's cafes, tourist areas, and among younger people, you'll often find English spoken fluently. However, outside of those circles, it's polite and practical to learn some Portuguese. Day-to-day bureaucracy, dealing with utilities, tax, schools, even reading the bus schedule, is almost always in Portuguese. Many expat blogs note that even basic phrases go a long way in Lisbon's friendly culture. For families, schooling is a major factor. Lisbon's public schools are free, secular, and run in Portuguese. Enrolling children in the local school system is possible, but students must adapt to Portuguese curriculum and language. Many expat families therefore choose international or private schools. Lisbon has a handful of well-established options: American, British, and international baccalaureate schools near Cascais, Carlucci American School, Redbridge, St. Julian's, etc. Be prepared for higher fees. Annual tuition can range from €8,400 to over €20,000 per child. On the other hand, public preschools and primary schools are free, aside from minimal fees for meals and supplies. In summary, English is widely encountered, but not universal. Newcomers, who intend to stay long-term, often enroll in a Portuguese course. Over time, our recommendation is to pick up at least conversational Portuguese. It unlocks local networks, and if you ever seek citizenship, meeting the basic Portuguese language requirement, A2 level, will be necessary. Deal breakers and caveats. Lisbon is not without its downsides. Several deal breakers keep some expatriates away. Housing shortage and availability. There is a chronic shortage of rental housing. The low vacancy rate, around 3%, means good apartments are snatched up quickly. Competition from tourists and foreigners bidding up prices has been politically contentious. The city has even frozen new short-term rental licenses in historic core areas and made existing licenses non-transferable. This is meant to curb Airbnbs, but also tightens the long-term rental market. Newcomers may find the apartment hunt frustrating. Budget for patience and consider engaging a local agent early. Tourist crowds. Lisbon's charms also draw crowds. The historic center, Alfama, Baixa, Chiado, can feel suffocatingly busy in summer. Even local cafes and public squares see throngs of visitors. Crowd-averse types note that pickpockets and noise rise sharply in high season. If you long for a tranquil daily life, avoid setting up home in the very center. Instead, living a bit further out, e.g. Estrela, Campo de Ourique, or suburbs like Cascais, yields more local feel and fewer selfie sticks in your face. Hills and mobility. Lisbon is famously hilly, the city of 7 hills. Many neighborhoods have steep, cobbled streets and staircases. Getting around without a car, or good knees, can be hard, especially in older quarters where elevators are absent. Buses and trams cover some inclines, but half your errands may involve a climb or descent. If you rely on a wheelchair or have limited mobility, Lisbon poses practical challenges, an important consideration that many guidebooks warn about. Regulatory changes. Laws can evolve. As noted, the short-term rental regime has tightened recently. There are also rent control and tenant protection measures, the MICE habitation program, that can affect both landlords and tenants. Tax rules like the NHR change above are another example. Always check the latest regulations before moving. Comparison. It's instructive to see how Lisbon stacks up against other popular choices. Valencia, Spain, offers a similar Mediterranean vibe with even lower rents and a flat, easy bike-friendly terrain. Valencia's healthcare, schools, and bureaucracy are comparable, but Portugal tends to be more English-friendly. Spain's English levels are lower outside tourism, and Lisbon's tech community is arguably larger. On the other hand, Portugal's visa process, D7, D8, is somewhat more straightforward for remote workers. Spain's equivalent non-lucrative visa has a high savings requirement and less favorable taxation. Spain still taxes foreign pensions, whereas Portugal's old NHR allowed many exemptions. Berlin, Germany, is in a different league. It's a global megacity with very high-quality infrastructure, dense transit, top hospitals, a huge international community. But Berlin's climate is colder, and it has its own housing crunch. Rents in Berlin Metro averaged 17 to 19 euros per meter squared in 2025, similar to Lisbon's range, despite much higher incomes. Taxes in Germany and the cost of daily goods are generally higher than in Portugal. On the other hand, as an EU country, Berlin has no visa requirement for EU citizens, and English is widely spoken. Lisbon lags behind Berlin in some public services. For example, pediatric clinics and school places can be oversubscribed. But Lisbon's weather, ocean access, and low crime are clear pluses that many find worth the trade. Conclusion. Lisbon presents a compelling mix of modern amenities and old-world atmosphere. It offers a high quality of life for remote workers, retirees, and families, from excellent internet and transit to safe sunny streets and a mild climate. The city's growing international community means you won't feel completely alone if you don't speak Portuguese. Yet the local culture is warm and embracing. Major downsides, crowds, housing pressure, bureaucratic quirks, are real but not insurmountable with preparation. If you're considering a move, taste the reality. Plan a budget around €2,000 a month for a single in a decent neighborhood, including rent, and maybe €4,000 plus for a family. Brush up on Portuguese and choose your postcode wisely. Use the new D7 or D8 visa routes if you qualify. And remember that Portugal no longer offers special tax deals to newcomers, except for very specific tech incomes. Healthcare is reliable, but might prompt you to take a small private policy for speed. And if you're okay navigating hills, you can ride Lisbon's trams or e-scooters to see why many say it's the perfect blend of old soul plus startup soul. International schools. All links to sources are available in the text version of this article. You can find the full article at movingabroad.life. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to Moving Abroad Life. If this episode helped you get closer to your next move, make sure to subscribe so you never miss a new deep dive. For the full written breakdown, comparison data, and relocation resources, open your browser and type movingabroad.life right into your address bar. That's movingabroad.life. 2 words, movingabroad.life. New research drops multiple times a week. See you in the next one.